Lemon Amiga presents a Playguide video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Welcome to another Lemon Amiga Playguide. This time we'll be checking out Sneech. This was developed mostly by Paul Mirabella and released in 1994. And you can see this is the most up-to-date version. This is version 1.52, which was released in 1995. The game will take care of various statistics for us and various high scores, and you can save your progress to disk at any point. There are various options available on that title screen, including the amount of games, the minutes per game, and the growth type, I'm not quite sure, and the keys to open doors. You can have doors already open or you need a key to open them, and points award system statistics and viruses. Well, you definitely want to switch viruses off in this game, but we're going to leave it on just to show you what happens if you do that. And you can see Sneech version 1.52. We can also play a demo as well on that title screen, and we can load and save everything up from here. And I think this is format, is it a new disc, or oh no, merge discs together. So if you have two high scored saves on two separate discs, you can merge them together with you and a friend, which is quite intelligent. And so we can also click on any one of these players and name them to ourselves. It doesn't have to be the first one, and you can see all of these are generically called something. And when I click on one of these, you can see they're each grouped into stars, and the more stars a player is ranked, the more, well, better and the higher rating they will have, and the better odds and things like that. So if you assign all the best players to the computer, like I'm doing, unfortunately you'll find very difficult computer players. We can swap those around, and you can see by clicking on them we can have Mr. Sheen, which is kind of a joke in the game, which is kind of a 1980s joke really, and Mr. Black and Reservoir Dogs kind of thing, and Mr. Gold. Let's go for a few easy ones, although most of the easy ones are already on there. Mr. Chrome, Mr. Black and Mr. Checker usually I like to go for, and so we can switch on all of these players. I think there are maybe 10 or 12 players here, and we can switch them all on. So the first one I'm going to put on joystick port 2, that's the one I'm going to be playing on. And now we can start that game. It will give us a league table right at the start of it, and we can even save the match up from here. It will award us a stock amount of money as well at the beginning of that game. In the shop we can then spend the money on various items, and some of those are relatively cheap. You can see we can upgrade our size for only 10 credits, and we can buy a few armaments as well, and a stunner as well to maybe stun the enemy, and a scooper to scoop up those bonuses. And you can have constant speed if you don't want to speed up and slow down, and you can have a shield. You can buy a shield and automatically turn around as well, which is very important, and grab the bombs on the screen. We can even take out a personal loan if we really want to do that, and that will give us some extra cash if we run out of cash in this game. So I'm just going to click on survive as 1. That means if we get reduced to 1 we won't die instantly, we'll simply survive. And let's buy some more bombs and some extra size as well, so we can start off a bit bigger than our enemies. And I definitely recommend at least 2 bombs at the start of the game.
Four, three, two, one.
I'm going to be playing as the red snake for the rest of this review, so you can keep an eye on that. And you can see it starts off just like any other snake game or a Tron game. We have an open playing field, and that playing field is soon filled up with objects. One of those are barriers. In this case we can ride up and down those ramps, and that will speed up our worm when we descend for them and give us a special speed bonus. But you can see the white one has just grabbed it, but it will slow us down as well when we move up those ramps. And if we collide with the enemies, if we have the bomb, that means the enemy will blow up, and if we don't have the bomb, if we collide with the enemies, it means we'll take damage. And the longer we collide with the enemies, the more damage we'll take. You can see I'm trying to grab black one, that gives us I think some extra speed. And you can also see a black one with a yellow box around it, which I'm heading towards. That's actually a detriment. I think we lose size or we lose speed by picking those up, so you'll notice that the enemies do not pick up those boxes throughout the entire game. And you can see a key has just materialised. If someone collects that key, that means that opens the door, and you can see I've just blown somebody up as well. That will mean is after you've blown somebody up, they will drop green items, green tokens, and those you can collect, and those are vital because they give us the cash at the end of the round. And yet again I failed to blow up these guys, and now they've managed to get out of the trap. If you manage to kill at least 2 or 3 of the enemies during the game, that will give us a nice big fat bonus at the end of it, plus any cash you've managed to collect on the level. Unfortunately, that's now the virus, and if I give the virus to an enemy, all that will happen is the enemies will then make a beeline towards me and give me back the virus again. And you can see I'm kind of a green, well, black guy with green around it, and I'm slowly dying. If I manage to touch the enemies, all that will happen is they'll touch me back again, bang, just like that, and I'll simply blow up and die. So viruses in this game are kind of alright, maybe if you only have 4 snakes on the go, and most of those are your enemies. And that creates a tag match where everybody's going to die eventually. Unfortunately, in the single player game, it's a good idea to switch the viruses off straight away. It doesn't affect the score or the points or the gameplay, it just means that that particular unfairness is taken away from the game, and that only affects the human players because the computer players simply hand the virus out to each other until they hit a human player, and they're very intelligent when it comes to handing out viruses. So definitely switch those off, and you can see towards the end of the round everything gets quite busy. This is not speeded up footage, this is actually the footage of the gameplay. The game will speed up to maximum once the human players die, and that makes sure that the round gets over quicker. And then you can either watch that or you can press escape to go to the next round. You can see a time on the left hand side, and once that ticks into the red area, finally the exit will appear. And at this point the most harsh thing is not crashing into anything, and of course the computer never crashes into anything except for the enemies. Once all the other players are dead and that time runs out, we'll get the exit. Then a number of bonuses are handed out to our points, including a random factor which awards a select number of points. So let's see what we did. We managed to kill somebody, it looks like Mr. Pink, and we managed to damage red, green and yellow. That gives us 58 and 77 points. We also got a bit of money as well. Interest is 35 and we managed to collect 700. That means we've now got 234 points and we've now got 800 in the bank. Which is great because it now means that we can spend that money, and we've still got the 400 that we had from the survive, so technically if we sell that we'll have even more money, and so it's possible to buy different things in the game and power up as long as we have that income coming in. Some of those are temporary, like the shields, and they will only last until we collide with and then they'll disappear. So that's a bit of a waste of money, to be honest, and I would go for something like a bomb grab or maybe a stun grab or something like that, which means that that money can be saved up for the next round and that item will remain with us unless we die.
Four, three, two, one.
At the beginning of every game, everybody will be loaded up with bombs, and if you crash into somebody with a bomb, that means they'll be depleted, and so that's the best thing to do, run into everybody. If you attack maybe one thing with 4 bombs, it more or less blows it up. You can see the green guy there. And so if you attack people with bombs, that's a great start. Fortunately they can also do that to us as well, and we've just got blown up. So we've just pressed escape to escape that, and that will mean that we get very few points and very little cash. We've actually got 7 credits left in the bank, and that means we're going to have to take out a loan, and our maximum loan is 2,045. So that means we can, well, we've still got our extra size and we can sell that off if we like to do that, but because we've got blown up, it means we're going to have to afford extra things. So I'm going to go for initial speed.
4, 3, 2, 1.
At the start of the game, it will highlight various things on the screen. Those are the kill bonuses for everyone, and one of those will have a wobbly thing around it. It looks like a shield. That's actually the maximum kill bonus. So if you look at that, that maybe have 200 or 300 kill bonus for killing that particular enemy. So if you want the maximum, it's best to aim for that enemy first. You can see I'm trying to bottle in one of the enemies, the weakest one, and hopefully that will crash into something, and as soon as you break away from the attack, it means, well, you get a respite and you start to grow, because in this game you automatically grow, or you can simply grow by collecting the tokens, of which there are white ones. You won't tend to see many white ones in the game, but at random sometimes it does spawn a heck of a lot of them. Usually if one snake collects all the black ones, they will be super fast, and that's why you can see the white ones zooming around the screen at high speed. That means you can cut off his enemies pretty quickly, but it also means he takes a lot of damage. So at the moment I'm trying to stay out of trouble by moving through those gates, and it starts to get like a Pac-Man game sometimes, and I'm moving down trying to pick up these things pixel perfectly, because if you miss something, it isn't always easy to turn around again. You can see white is scooping up all of the points, and maybe if we destroy white at this point we'll get a super bonus, and it's pretty difficult to do that because the black ones are being taken up by the white guy. Because he's faster than anybody else, you can simply run around and grab him. Sometimes if you hang back you can clean up. If the enemies blow each other up, you can simply hang back and collect any money that they drop and be a scavenger. And of course, if you last a good long length of time, sometimes that gives us an advantage. You can see the white one has run out of power now that he's all the way down there, so he's now gone all the way down in speed again. And sometimes if you crash into something head on and race things like this, race to the very edge, sometimes you can turn around right at the last second and the enemy will simply collide straight into us. And sometimes it can happen to us as well. Another thing is we can crash into ourselves, and that means we'll lose a lot very quickly. Luckily, if we stay clean, our snake will grow again. As long as you've got that auto grow on, then that means, well, as long as we stay clean, we can keep going. But look at that, we're being attacked. As the playfield gets tighter with all these things, you can't crash into those blocks, and you can crash into those yellow-black ones, but that will deplete us, so you get less and less time to react. Let's use the ramp to try to speed us up a bit. That doesn't last very long, but it is a noticeable speed increase if you manage to do that. Hopefully as the game goes on there will be less enemies attacking us, but oh no, look at that. We simply do not want that, that's the virus, and maybe, well, it looks a bit like a bomb, so if you go around collecting that thinking that it's a bomb, then it isn't, but look at that.
4, 3, 2, 1.
The enemy making its way straight towards the virus, and that means that I now have the virus, now the enemy, now it's us. And now, unfortunately, because I couldn't actually see where I was going, the survivors one didn't work because, well, that kind of works if you're down to 2 and you can survive, and that worked for me. Unfortunately, the screen tends to do weird things like it's on acid. At the end of that we managed to damage something, we managed to get a bit more score, but we didn't get any money whatsoever. So now it's back. And back in the day, of course, if you blow up something straight away and you get tons of cash, you don't need to take out a loan, and I can't remember a single time back in the day that I ever needed to take out a loan. But of course I haven't played this in 16 years or something, so as soon as I'm playing it now, of course I'm having to take out a loan. I'm in debt up to my neck, and I never get in debt in real life because if I can't afford something I simply don't need it, and if I need it or otherwise I'll save up for it later.
2, 1.
But wouldn't you know it, I've already forgotten what I used to do, and I think maybe I used to get 4 or 5 bombs from the start, and that blows up the first enemy, and you can grab that, and if you're lucky during the subsequent games, that enables you to spend the money on even more bombs, and you can pelt the enemies, and as long as you destroy one per match, that means hopefully you can get some amount of money together to continue.
4, 3, 2, 1.
This type of snake game was apparently based on the 1976 arcade game Blockade, although I've seen that actually advertised as Barricade, I'm not quite sure, and that's a snake game. And Tron I think came out in 1982, so that's quite a long time later. Nibbler also came out in 82, and Snake I think is a basic game which came out I think in 1977 on the, well, I think it's in the basic games book along with everything else, and like, you know, Canyon Bomber and all the easy basic games. So all of these 70s games have been around for a while. This is kind of worms or snakes on acid, and snakes, well, it could be any kind of thing. It could be an amoeba, and it's great on the Amiga version. It colours them in all these different colours, and in high resolution PAL screen mode it means we've got plenty of area to move around in. If we get the upgrades and the speed ups before the computer, then that adds another element to the game, because we're now too fast to accurately hit something, and that means you'll have to get used to moving the controller in the diagonals and moving around in a complete circle, trying to stay out of all the enemies' way, because if you collide with them, that is not a good thing, and we are now too fast to manoeuvre. If we try to collide with the enemies, we'll probably die, and if we try to pin them by the side, we'll probably die as well. Survive as one can be a blessing and a curse, because if you survive as one, sometimes there's nowhere to go, and I'm picking up speed ups, which is making survive as one even harder. Now with the blocks appearing, and if I fall down that one, I'll simply die straight away.
4, 3, 2, 1.
And so there are big voids in the floor that you can't fall down, and that's me. I've now collided with something, and the enemies quickly grab it, and the game speeds up all over again. That time we didn't even hit anything, we didn't get any score whatsoever according to that, so I'm now ranking down on that leaderboard, and the easy enemies are right at the bottom. They've got an L next to them, they're kind of learner easy enemies, and the strong enemies are of course at the top of the leaderboard. So we've died, we haven't got anything. I don't think we've got any money, well, any disposable cash at least. And you can win the random factor for 300, you can have a super scooper to collect everything before you even get there, and that's fairly cheap. You can have no dead money, so I think you can collect the money floating around, which is good. That can probably save us a fortune if we simply collect it right off the bat.
4, 3, 2, 1.
But all these things take cash, and if you don't have that cash, and if you don't spend it wisely in the first game, it can mean that we are at a disadvantage now for the rest of it. Sometimes it's best to concentrate on one single enemy, and then hopefully you can get into them and reduce their length, and eventually they will die. I'm trying to concentrate on the pink one, thinking it's probably one of the easiest. And all I've done is manage to crash into something and reduce myself back again. Surviving as two isn't too bad. You can see we simply regrow again after a number of cycles around that area, so that means we're not automatically dead like many of these Snake games. And the money that we get from those green tiles is kind of random. You'll get from 1 to 4 from that, and it will tell us the number of money that we've picked up with voice samples, 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of thing. And it's those voice speech samples which make the game very memorable indeed, as well as the Salvador Dali graphics. The traditional thing to do is of course to trap a snake against a wall so it has nowhere else to go, but in this game the enemies simply can reverse, and you can buy reverses however many you want, or maybe you can buy a reverse gadget that does it automatically. In other words, if you try to trap the worm or the snake in itself, it will simply it will simply reverse automatically. Guess what? This particular playthrough is perhaps the worst playthrough of this game that I've ever had in my entire life.
4, 3, 2, 1.
And that's pretty embarrassing because this used to be one of my favourite games. Of course it doesn't rank up there with Lotus Turbo Esprit and the others. So let's try to be more on the attack this time, and let's hope that we try to get some cash this time, because it's pretty difficult. Sometimes the length is good because we can wrap around the enemies. And sometimes the speed is better because that means we can head them off. But as we have seen, if the enemies can simply reverse, heading them off isn't always the best option. Towards the end of the game, the enemies will run out of reverses. If they haven't got a reverse gadget, they will reverse and they will run out of them, and that means you can
4, 3, 2, 1.
destroy them by trapping them. So hopefully it gets easier as the game goes on. Unfortunately, because of the number of blocks on the screen, it can often mean that we definitely blow up before they do. I'm trying to concentrate everything on yellow, it looks like, but I've been diverted from doing that, and that means Mr. Banana is getting even more longer. and enemies are dying. Oh no, guess what's appeared on the screen? It's a virus. And so just like that, I'm going to die. Game over, Mr. Unfair. So definitely in the next game, and for every game now that I ever played this game, for the rest of my life, I'm not going to switch on the viruses. So that's the final score, ladies and gentlemen, and that means that we're almost at the bottom of the table. And now we get a new game, so let's change a few of the parameters. We can have 3 games at a minimum, or even 30 of them. We can leave the time alone, but let's not forget to switch off the viruses whilst we're here. We'll leave everybody on who was on before, including the 2 big guys in their own team and the learners as well, and we start off with 1,000. Unfortunately we can't get a loan at the start because the computer doesn't know how good or bad we are until we've played our first game, and I think maybe loans are based on our ability. So self-reverse seems to be a good option. It seems to pay for itself. And what else? We can buy reverses as well, but I'm still thinking about those bombs and that initial speed. It doesn't really matter about our initial size because we can grow, but if we get those bombs in to at least 2 of them into the heads of the enemies, that might work.
4, 3, 2, 1.
You see, everybody's fairly small at the start of the game, and that can help because the small enemies are easy to knock out if you do manage to knock them out, one way or the other. And sometimes one death in this game leads to another.
2, 4.
Or sometimes you can just run into the side of an enemy, and so that wasn't particularly useful. Let's try the 4 bombs trick, and you don't need to be as massive as this, but let's just go for broke anyway.
Four, 3, 2, 1.
The main coder and the main designer of this game, Paul Berkey, went on to a large number of titles. He started out with Playguide on the Amiga in March '94, and Sneech came out in September. He also got Piles of Tiles, and he converted Simon the Sorcerer 2 as well, but he's most known for Foundation and Foundation the Director's Cut and Foundation Gold. He worked on the Feeble files, and his last game was Software Tycoon on the Amiga in May 2002. Paul also had a very old website online where you can see he announced Sneech 2 was in development, and he did all of the hard work on that and didn't end up releasing it. So that was a lost game, now lost in history. On the old website that I managed to rescue, the old high scores are there as well, so if you want to beat the Sneech high scores, Paul himself, and along with other guys have recorded those, along with all kinds of different things. Sneech got an average rating of 8 out of 10 on the Only Amiga website, and I think that that's a good score, and definitely for a public domain game this has got bags on offer.
3, 4, 1, 2,
I think up to 6 human players can play together, and that's maybe 2 on the controller, maybe 4 of those on the keyboard. Of course, Sneech 2 was to offer more players than that, and maybe up to 16 of them in network play. And I can't help thinking that even a game like this would still be great fun today. Sometimes I try to use the ladder technique because I've got a digital controller. I move that in the diagonal and it creates a ladder, and that wobbles in the diagonal like whoop 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 whoop, just like that. And that ladder sometimes helps me avoid the enemies and target things a bit better, and you kind of get used to those little things because, well, definitely if you have an analog controller you'll be crashing into everything. You really need a solid micro switch controller in this game, I feel. And now let's attack this guy. And now, because of the enemies, I've now been pushed away from that guy, so sometimes you have to attack things and then change your mind all over again. The enemies are now getting trapped in that corner, so it would be a good idea. Well, maybe I can take out this green one since he's the longest thing on the game. But again, those stupid reverses. Reverse, reverse, reverse. It keeps saying it. It sounds like... Well, it keeps saying it. I wish it said it for me because I've now died. That reminds me of Alec Guinness in Star Wars. So we managed to destroy somebody according to that and hurt somebody, so we get 1,000. That's as much as we started with. It shows the current league table. And now, well, we don't have to, we can even pay back the loan if we really want to do that. We can shuffle loans at this point as soon as we start earning the thousands. We can even sell the self-reverse if we want to give ourselves even more cash. I've no idea whether that's critical or paramount or useless, but we'll have the speed booster on so that we get a little bit quicker. And let's go for broke again. Let's turn ourselves into the longest thing in the game and we'll see if that works. And it even gives us the odds at the end.
Four, three, two, one.
So what I'm going to attempt here is to simply encircle everybody and hope they will all crash out into each other and give me all that cash. and it's not easy to encircle everybody, but it is entirely possible. Unfortunately, the computer is very agile when it comes to that, and it's very difficult for the computer to crash into the enemies when it's trying to find its way out. So that isn't always the best thing to do, and in that case I didn't have anything. So we can collect an extra bomb, that's pretty helpful, and in some levels it gives us tons of extra length and tons of extra speed as well, at complete random. And some of these playfields are at complete random, some of them are built into the game, and you might have seen that we went into a square playfield, but there's all kinds of things, or we might go into a random one just like this, where random blocks will appear. And it doesn't look like we're having the best luck with this particular try, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to try again a bit later on. And of course the final scores are, I'm near the bottom again, not the very bottom according to that, but I'm not quite sure. You can even switch on a learner driver, that means they're basically a learner, a naive, unprofessional. We can even switch on the teams, and the teams is simply a coloured flag that represents certain members, and you can switch on maybe 4 or 5 different coloured teams in the game. So I'm just going to demonstrate that. We can't have any fewer games, unfortunately, and it looks like we can't have, well, we can have a 4-minute game, which is pretty good. And let's see, we don't need a key anymore, everything else looks alright. In a teams game we'll still all get the same amount of cash at the beginning of it, so if you're a spendthrift it means that we can get through it pretty quickly at the start, and winning the random factor and getting pass through. Well, the pass through is actually a very, very good feature, and I'm glad I'm showing that in this review, because it means we can pass through ourselves. That can get us out of difficulties more times than you can imagine.
3, 2, 1.
And I managed to destroy somebody, but they've managed to get a life. I think you can buy extra lives as well in the shop, or life insurance or something like that. That means you start again, and that means you continue from, I think, where you left off, or if you had 15 segments then you get them all the way back. So you can buy that in this game, and that's better, that's certainly better than the Survive as One thing that we bought earlier on. In this particular layout you can see it's showering us with extra length pills, and maybe that's the random factor that we bought, I've no idea, but you can see that there are tons and tons now. Look at that, we've managed to pass through ourselves. Sometimes we can eat away at our own tail, and I think maybe we can even pass through the enemies as well. It's fun to hear those sound effects buzzing away as we get through the game, and the meow meow of the things going around and the explosions and everything. are actually fairly long. It might be even possible to win a few games, or maybe even destroy an enemy. But if we fall down those holes in the floor, we'll get destroyed. Or if an enemy surrounds us like this, we'll also get... Look at that! That pass-through saved our life again. Unfortunately, I think you can only use that pass-through maybe 5 times or something like that before it stops working, and I think that then disappears out of our inventory once we stop that. I've no idea if we only use that once or twice a game whether that will remain, and maybe so, maybe that will get recharged, but there is a limit to the amount of times we can actually pass through. Another problem is if we are so long that it takes us ages, sometimes we can't even get back to the cache. I've got all that cache around and I'm being forced away from that, and the enemies are collecting it. I can't even see it now because it's in black and white. I'm just falling down the drain. So if you are too long, there are all kinds of hidden hazards, but look at that, I've made it to the end of that level. That means that Team A and Team B will share different points. They all get the same points depending on which team that they're on. You can see the money is also split, and I think we're on the winning team, so we get the most money. So that's 865 between the lot of us. You can see the pass through, we've already spent that. And we can buy extra things. What are we going to go for in this case? Well, we can't really afford much. Self-reverse definitely would be a good idea, and auto turn, well, let's try that. And surprising, you can always buy an extra length. Now we're moving into a predetermined maze, and you can see Mr. Black. If we kill him, we'll get all those 210 kill points. Well, that's green gone already, but as you might imagine, these ones are pretty lethal to us, and they're not really lethal to the computer because it can agilely move around that screen and just avoid everything. So sooner or later we're gonna die. But we've got rid of green, that's great for our team, and hopefully we'll get more bonus points for that. At this point, all you can do is wander around into a clear area looking for collectibles. I couldn't find any, so I blew up. That's us dead, I'm afraid, so thank you for viewing this play guide, and we'll see you again sometime soon. Thank you.